Okay, so in today's podcast, I want to have a little session about the concept of soulmates. And I want to expand upon something that I've learned through my work as a psychic medium, and really what soulmates are, the purpose that they serve in our life, but also how can we have an expanded version of the understanding of what a soulmate is. So I'm sure you've heard it, the biggest myth about soulmates, that you only have one, right? We've all heard that. It's been depicted in films and movies. And it goes a little something like this. There's one person out there for you, one perfect match, one destined romantic partner who completes you. It's really sold a lot of great Hollywood movies. It's made a lot of love songs, and it's majorly been something that has been basically woven into our consciousness as a very small version of actually what soulmates are. Here's what I need you to know. That's not really, the Hollywood version is not really how soul connections work. Now, believe me, you've got soulmates out there who you can have a romantic love with in a depth that can last a lifetime, right? Where you remember each other through incarnation and incarnation. But the truth is actually that you don't have just one soulmate. You actually have many. And that's because of something that I like to call as the soul groups. Now, the reason why I like to call it soul groups is that it's really an expansive way of understanding the individuals that our soul seeks out, even plans to seek out before we came here, in order to form relationships and to discover things and to meet, of course, challenges as a soul entering a human life, but also to enjoy things and to learn things. And here's really what the truth of the matter is for me as well. Soulmates are people like your parents, your siblings, your closest friends, that college professor who saw really something in you or saw you for the first time as an adult, even an elderly neighbor that you knew maybe for, between the ages of 2 and 5, fed you ice cream. You saw her after you got off the school bus, even relationships like that. These are all part of the direct and indirect soulmates that you meet in your soul groups. Now, we can think of soul groups as extremely expansive, but we also can think of it as micro. Your mom and your dad and your siblings. That's a direct micro soul group where all of you chose to be together in a certain socioeconomic dynamic, in a cultural dynamic, and that you are going to help and support each other and learn certain things together, and maybe even have to go back on some old roads over some old stuff, but that you were going to have and come into this life knowing that that was going to be a part of a direct soul group. If you're just joining in, I'm Claire Falcon. I'm a psychic medium who spent decades studying soul connections, past lives, dreams as a way of understanding where our souls came from. And today we're going to reframe the question of how do you discover your soulmates and your soul group? By the end of our time together, you'll understand why certain people showed up in your life, what you're meant possibly to learn from them, and how to recognize your soul group members everywhere that you look, how to weave it into your understanding of this human experience, your entire life. Here's what we're exploring. First, we'll talk about what soul groups actually are and how they formed even before you made your last entry into your human body. We're also going to dive down into recognizing the connections that you can see in your everyday life. And we're going to go from soul groups that you know that are direct, but also indirect encounters, I like to say, with maybe soul mates or soul friends that are a little bit on the periphery, but still hold a lot of meaning for you and made an impact on your life. We're also going to explore how even difficult relationships sometimes represent the most sacred soul contracts designed to help you grow and those that you get involved with. So let me ask you something before we dive in. If you think in your life, who's been a person that's really shaped you in ways that you wouldn't even be able to put into words? Hold that person in your mind. Then think about someone who you maybe had a bit of a hard time with. You love them deeply. You don't always understand them. But there's something about them that you feel a deep connection with. And maybe you used to talk to them a lot more and you don't talk to them anymore. Or maybe they're still in your life and they're a family member. Or maybe it's just a best friend where you were friends during high school. Both of you went your separate ways, but you had a really deep relationship from the time that you spent in high school. By the end of this episode, holding those people into your mind, I think you're going to understand it from the concept of, why did I choose soulmates like that? Are they a part of my direct and indirect soul group? And what's the role that I play in their lives and they play in mine in showing us how to be better humans? And I say better humans because part of the reason why your soul even entered into soul contracts. Some say soul contracts, some say soul bonds, some say soul agreements. If you think about it, the real reason why we come is to really get involved in these human relationships. And that's the entire reason why a soul chose a human life. And so this is kind of the understanding of seeing it from an expansive viewpoint about what role soul groups play for you. Really has a deeply profound impact on your life because it helps you understand yourself and your relationships far better. Let me get real clear about something that changes everything when you understand it. There was a time and space where your consciousness, some like to call it the world between worlds, life between lives, there was a point where through your own teachers and your own guides and your own understanding, you chose to have a human experience, and you chose this very specific human life. Before you were born and came into the human body that you're currently incarnated, you made decisions about this life from very spiritual understanding of what you wanted to achieve. And you also made a deal, if you will, and sometimes a very deep bond with the understanding that you were going to enter in relationships that served your highest soul's expression and help both of you move forward through this life. But that the ones that had a little bit of grit in them, the ones that had a little bit of friction in them, you decided that you were going to enter them because you know that even with that friction, you and that soul help walk each other through this journey. And this might sound a little bit abstract to people, but stay with me because it has a profound understanding of who you are and why you came. A lot of dedication, time, and reflection went into choosing with whom you would share certain experiences. They are not casual, even if some of them only really lasted for a season, couple years, couple months. Your soul, in either case, was deeply intentional about who you would walk alongside with as your soul met this human incarnation journey. You understood also that by choosing certain people, even when there's a bit of a challenge with them, that they have soul strengths that mirror what you need to develop, or because you knew they would be able to help you find ways that you could shape your journey and allow your soul really to express itself better. They're not random connections. Your soul groups sometimes last over incarnations. You often are together in the life between lives where you look and review the lives together. What did I learn? How did I learn it? How did it go? What am I going to try next time? When you understand the longevity of soul groups, it really changes a lot about how you see your current life. Think about it in this way. Who is your main romantic partner in this life? How can you look back on your relationship to them and understand the deep love and even infatuation probably you had for them, but also how you grew together as friends that supported each other even when things got rough? You can see that it's purposeful, even if those romantic partnerships ended up not working out. What about the same frame to your parents? Would you be surprised to know that you chose them? Sometimes I really know that can be hard to hear, especially when the child was difficult. What about your siblings? Both of your siblings and you knew that you would be able to help each other on a peer-to-peer level. You knew that you would spend significant time with them as the soul went through yet another incarnation of adolescence, of teenage years, of being scared in your 20s, of falling in love. You both knew that they would play a pivotal role in how you were and how you were raised. Here's what's crucial to understand. Even in relationships that cause real pain, sometimes we can board the same strong, valuable gifts that we had done even in a relationship that never has strain. Now, I'm not saying that painful relationships are okay or that you shouldn't have boundaries. As a psychic medium, I always say that. But what I am saying is that all relationships can be seen from a soul's perspective, from the analysis of what truly a soulmate and a soul group is, and to understand that these connections serve a deep and profound purpose. Some souls don't come for an easy ride. They come to have learned specific lessons, to develop particular strengths, to heal certain patterns. I've often read through my own experience of understanding the world of spirit, but also psychic communication, or even of my own understanding of what I have read and developed along my own path, is that some of our deepest lessons that we learn are with our indirect and direct soul groups. And sometimes it's the soulmates that maybe we even meet very randomly, where you would have never thought you would form a connection with somebody. It ends up lasting maybe a few months, a few years. These are all profound cases of what it means to understand your life and your world through the lens of soul groups and soulmates. Now, through the really great work of psychic mediumship, I've often asked those who have come through for loved ones that book a session with me, what was the most profound thing that you learned from your soul group? And how, when you look at it now from your perspective, how do you see it? And those have been some of the deepest and richest stories of forgiveness, of understanding, also of not agreeing with, but completely seeing the human side of it in that incarnation and being able to see that now from their perspective. And sometimes it's been really sweet recognitions that while they thought it was a one-time thing in that life, and that they were just really loved their grandfather or they really loved their grandmother and had a wonderful relationship with them and were deeply sad to see them die, that they understood then from the world of spirit, when we review our soul groups and when we understand those connections of soulmates, that they found that they had been incarnating with them for 400, 500 years. It's really amazing when you can understand the longevity of A, who your soul is and its limitlessness, and B, that we come often in these soul groups and that we come with the understanding of wanting to learn from our soulmates. Now, once you understand that it's there, you start seeing connections in your life. I really mean that they are shown to you in such a manner after you get this kind of really logical understanding of what soulmates and soul groups are, and to really understand how deep they go. Now, let me give you one that often pops up in psychic readings that I give. These are soulmates like childhood friends, right? The ones that you know from a really young age. Your parents are friends. You grew up together in the same neighborhood. They know really who you are. You've been through the struggles of puberty and elementary school and maybe bullying, maybe your parents divorcing. These are the people that really know your struggles, your joys, and your triumphs, and maybe even know your family. These are some of the strongest soulmates that I've uncovered through my work as a psychic medium. There's a reason why a friendship from kindergarten still feels significant 20 to 30 to 40 years later. There's a reason why a friend that you knew from elementary to middle school, but maybe weren't really friends with in high school, you had two different friends groups, that their memory, even if you don't talk to this day, is still really strong with you and has an emotional connection. Soulmates experienced through childhood friends are some of the richest and most profound relationships that we as souls experience as humans. Your soul recognizes each other. And even when you were setting up these soul groups to have these childhood friends, you even gave yourself little hints and experiences so that you would recognize them when you were incarnated. That's how deep this goes with how we plan soulmates and soul groups. If you really start to uncover these relationships, I always like to say that Earth is the schoolhouse of relationships. You really start to understand your soul better. Why did you choose it? What were you meant to learn? How are you doing? What's the joy of being with them? How are they such a special person in your life? And soul groups really show up in all kinds of ways. And this is where it gets really interesting. They often appear as what little anchor points on your journey. Remember that one teacher or college professor who opened up a whole world for you? Maybe it was your third grade teacher who made you feel really safe. Maybe it was just one of the janitors or co-workers at a school that you formed a bond with and talked baseball over. Maybe it was someone that introduced you as a friend of your parents, that introduced you to music at 15, or really saw who you were becoming when you were 15, 16, and 17 and wanted to talk to you, wanted to know what you were interested in, really, really was truthful in wanting to get to know you. Even if connections last years or months, your soul prepared for those interactions that I just explained. They become the anchor points on your soul journey so that you recognize your soulmates along the way. Time-wise, these relationships could be very short. I've given many examples about how that can happen. but the emotional imprint can last an entire human lifetime. When you were really, let me show you something that you can understand also from a different side point. When you were really young, think about in school or in church in your family. What about someone that really pushed your buttons? Someone that you're just like, they're just their vibe, the way they about it, how preachy they get, how teachy they get. But somehow you were always involved because they taught Sunday school, or you had to take their class 2 years in a row. Or it was someone that, was always around and you just had to listen to them, and, you get the vibe. The fascinating thing is that sometimes these can be very important people in our indirect soul groups. They show up to trigger a growth that we need, and believe me, they're growing on the other side as well. Maybe they taught you things about standing up for yourself, of patience and acceptance and compassion, even for things that you don't understand. Or maybe it's simply about setting boundaries. These are also the soul groups, both indirect and direct, and the soulmates that we choose. Now, let me give you one of a more accurate example from an adult. Think about your coworker that you can come to when things get really tough. Projects not on deadline, everybody's freaking out. Some people call it my work wife, some people call it my work husband. Nothing about that is romantic, but they can be soulmates that you've had over many incarnations. They can be a part of your direct soul group 2 and 3 lives ago, and this time wanted to make a plan with you in the arena of career and work so that you would be side by side, trying to understand, trying to move forward, trying to integrate the lessons, and trying to experience a deeply happy human life, even in the challenging times. These are soulmates. These are soul groups. Here's the really beautiful thing always to remember. From your best friend to your childhood neighbor that maybe died when you were 12, to your favorite teacher who you had maybe only 1 year, or someone that stretches back even further to childhood, that has known you before you could even talk, whose advice and counsel you seek out even if you don't have the opportunity to talk more than once or twice or 3 times a year. These are your soul groups. They help you spread the connection of your soul's desires and ideals. And you stand side by side and shoulder to shoulder, and you walk through this journey together. So today, I really ask you to look around in your larger friend group, in your direct soul group, maybe your family, how you grew up. Look to your husband, and even look to your own children, should you have them today. Those are some of our greatest teachers. We all agree upon who will be our parents before we come, every time. And we come to experience both their love and their joy of raising us, and the challenges that we will meet together. And that's why when you form strong bonds with your children and start to really understand them, when this happens, I start to hear things like, just when they were born and I held them, it felt like I knew them. Or one time when they were young, they talked about my grandfather and they'd never met him. These are all hallmarks of those that have traveled in soul groups with you time and time and time again. And so when you look in your life and you try to understand these soul connections, you get a very clear picture of why your soul came. You start to see it unfold in your life. You start to see relationships through a very different perspective. And you really start to get the longevity of your soul. You really start to understand its limitlessness. So when you think about it and when you hear soulmates again, be it in a Hollywood script, be it in a song, be it in a way that to understand the world, please think of it from an expansive viewpoint. And the very next opportunity that you get, where a soulmate has walked with you for many, many lives, try and see what about them exactly you love, because it reflects something in you that you love as well. So just as the challenging soul groups and soulmates show us things, the ones where we have joy, love, respect, admiration, you name it, those are because we share those qualities and we wanted to incarnate together so that our soul could share them together and really reach out and express who we are through good times and through bad times. And so this is something that I love to talk to people about. It's a key understanding of the soul's journey. And it's really one of the things that I love showing people from an expansive viewpoint. This kind of work is what I do in my psychic mediumship readings. It's what I teach in my intuitive mastermind. It's what I teach in my mentorship of dreams or intuition. It's what I teach in my meditations. It is the understanding that your soul is expansive, and that why you came and how you came and what you are experiencing is deeply profound. If this speaks to you, and if this speaks to intuition and soul journey, I really want to let you know that for the third year in a row, I'm opening up my doors next week for Season of Gratitude Deal Week, November the 24th through the 28th. This is where I open up all of my programs for 5 days. Every single day, there's a different deal. And I do it because I want to show the absolute gratitude to this work, to how much my students have achieved and my clients over the year, and to open it up so that I can make it wildly accessible to many different people. Some of them maybe are walking this journey for years and years, developing their spiritual self, and maybe some people that just want to start. I can tell you that 2025 has been a year of endings and beginnings, and what you are experiencing now in the in-between is setting you up to shed all that no longer serves you in 2025 and to head into 2026, where we will really start to ride the creator degree, as it were, from an astrological standpoint. So if you want to know how to prepare yourself, or you would just love to understand how to connect to your intuition more, which is the soul's knowing, then I encourage you to really save the date. November 24th, it kicks off. I love it. I have changed everything of my products and services. Of course, the old timers of readings are still there. Past life regression, past life journey, psychic readings, spirit communication, but all of the programs and services for teaching about intuition, mentorship, meditation, dream interpretation, I have really rescaled and redone and added some amazing stuff that I think is going to bring a lot of value and help to my clients and students. So I'm super stoked to show it to you. Watch this space. If you're not on my email list, make sure you get there. Drop me a line on my Instagram, or drop me a line at contact@clairefalcon.com. Love your work. May you walk in beauty. May you understand the expansiveness of your soul. And may you understand that those soulmates and soul groups that you encounter years, days, and months are profound. Thanks for listening. See you next time.